days after being killed, he will rise again." But they did not understand what he was saying and were afraid to ask him. Then they came to Capernaum, and when he was in the house, he asked them, "What were you arguing about on the way?" But they were silent, for on the way they had argued with one another who was the greatest. He sat down, called the 12, and said to them, "Whoever wants to be first must be last among all and servant of all." Then he took a little child and put it among them, and taking it in his arms, he said to them, "Whoever welcomes one such child in my name welcomes me. And whoever welcomes me welcomes not me, but the one who sent me." This is the word of our Lord.
Thanks be to God.
All right. Well, once again, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Morning. All right. Our Bible verse for today is actually quite unique. It's different than a lot of them. And first, we see that Jesus, he pulls the disciples away to a quiet, secluded place to talk about something very important, something difficult, and that's his coming death. Now, we have to remember, we all know the story, right? We all have Bibles. We know what's going to happen. But the disciples had no idea what was about to come, so this was a big deal. Then, in the Bible verse, we see Jesus, he puts a stop to his disciples arguing about who's the best. Like they're all playing golf. Who can hit the farthest drive? That's what they're arguing about. That's really what's going on. Then he presents his teaching to them, which is incredibly important today, and it's basically that the first shall be last. So we're going to start at the beginning. Jesus and the disciples, they've been going all over the place in the Middle East, preaching about reaching the lost. They go from town to town, and this is the message that they're taking. They'll preach to anybody that would listen. And all along the way, the disciples are learning as well. But while this is going on, what's cool is Jesus actually pulls the disciples away for a little while to a quiet place to teach them, to teach the ones who will eventually be teaching themselves. Because he's still growing their faith. They have a lot to learn. He's preparing them for something that's going to happen before too long, which is really, really big, which is going to be his death. And again, remember, we know this is coming, but the disciples don't. They're learning as this goes on. And boy, are they in for a surprise. What's going to come? Now, at some point, when Jesus and the disciples, they arrive at this quiet place, he begins to tell them that he's going to be betrayed. He's going to be betrayed by one of them. And not only is he going to be betrayed, he's going to be arrested, he's going to be handed over to the authorities, and they're going to kill him. And 3 days later, he will rise from the dead. Now, let's put yourself in the disciples' shoes, or sandals. All right, that's probably what they're wearing, right? You've been following this guy named Jesus for a while. You see him do incredible things. He's done amazing miracles, something you've never seen. Turn water into wine. He can feed thousands of people with just basically what's in a lunchbox. The wind obeys him. The waves obey him as well as demons. And now he says he will be betrayed by one of us. Then he's going to die and then come back to life 3 days later. Wouldn't you have a few questions if you were the disciples? I'd have a lot of questions. One, who has the ability to kill you if you can do all this stuff? I mean, think like the X-Men and Marvel characters, Iron Man. That's some pretty strong stuff. This is Jesus, right? So somewhere in there, someone's going to go, wait a second, how is that going to work? You have all this power. Why not just stop the guys trying to kill you? Here's an idea. If you can raise yourself from the dead, why not die in the first place? Just stop that from happening. You see, all these questions should normally come up. What does dying for 3 days have to do? That's what would be going through my head if I was one of the disciples. You think those are common sense questions. When you think about it, the disciples left their jobs, they left their livelihood, left everything to follow Jesus. And now he throws out this, I'm going to be arrested and die. And I'm going to come back. But here's what's so strange about this Bible verse. The disciples are all there, it's quiet, there's no one else around. You know what the disciples ask him? Go to the next slide. Nothing. Not a one has one question. Like, hey, can you just repeat what you said? They didn't even say that. The disciples did not understand what was going on, just like we would. They were afraid to ask Jesus what he was talking about. Now let's think about that for a minute. How did disciples get to that point? Was Jesus known for being a mean guy? No. Like think of the TV show The Apprentice with Donald Trump. Like, you're fired. Get out. Did Jesus do anything like that ever? No. He was kind. He was gentle. And he purposely pulled them apart, away from other groups, to give them a chance to talk and to learn, to have this deep conversation. He wanted to have a frank discussion with them. But instead, what do we see happening? The disciples are too afraid to even ask what's going on. So why would the disciples be afraid to ask? That's the next question. What's going on? What do they not want to happen? Well, we see in the next part of our Bible verse what's going on. It says that once they arrived to Capernaum, Jesus asked them a question. Let's go to our next slide. It says, hey, what were you guys arguing about on the way here? But they were silent. Why? On the way there, they had gotten an argument about who was the greatest. They were angry at each other. The disciples wanted to throw down. It sounds funny, but they were angry at each other because they were fighting over which one's the greatest. They were arguing about who's the best disciple. They had this discussion. It got heated. People were getting their feelings hurt. I don't want Peter. John, I'm taller than you anyway. Right? You get this. They're human. You get their human side. And none of them wanted to admit in front of the others that they didn't know what Jesus was talking about. It was their ego that was getting in the way. Let's bring that to today's standard. Let's assume something like that happens here. Let's say the newspaper comes in here one day, a reporter wants to do an interview on this church. And we're all here, he's talking to us after the service. And then the discussion goes to, well, which one here is kind of the best, Christian? Who attends the most, who gives the most, who sings the loudest, who's like hero, who really, who's the best one? So then everybody starts to go, I think it's got to be me. And temper starts, no, he wasn't even here last week. You see where this is going? Okay, fine, I'll turn this way. Then while all this is going on, during that time, I announced to everybody, I say, by the way, one of you is going to betray me and I'm going to be killed. And 3 days later, I'm coming back from death. And then none of you goes, what? And you know why you don't do that? It's because you don't want anybody else to know that you don't know what's going on. You're just silent. Oh, yeah, totally, I knew that. No, you didn't. This is actually what's going on. This is 100% of what's happening right now. Who would want to stand up and say, hold on, I don't get any of this? I mean, nothing. Start over. They were all willing to lie and put up a front and bluff that they knew what was going on. Now, they weren't trying to lie to Jesus. That wasn't their intention. They didn't set out that way. But they got their feelings hurt when they were arguing about who's the better one. And they're hoping to just bluff their way through. Because, of course, that's what the Bible tells us, right? If you don't know, just bluff it. No, it doesn't do that at all. And that's not what Jesus wanted in any way. Now, ironically, this is the sad part, it was their ego that kept them from being the best disciple that they could be, from learning about the one thing that Jesus was sent to do. Their ego prevented them from asking questions about the one thing that saved us all. Let's go to our next picture. That's why we are here. That's why Jesus was sent. And they got their feelings for arguing about who was the greatest, and they did want to ask questions about what does this have to do with anything? It's a good old-fashioned staring contest, and none of them wanted to be the first to blame. Now the disciples did some awesome stuff. As I said, they left their jobs, they left everything to follow this guy, Jesus. And they've sacrificed more than any of us probably ever would. And yet they're still human. And when Jesus asked them, he knew what they were talking about. He asked them, well, what were you guys arguing about? They didn't say anything. They didn't want to admit to it. You ever have some of your children get in trouble, do something at the house? Break a window? Ask, what happened? I don't know. There's a baseball bat right there. There's a baseball inside the house. You don't know. But the disciples, they were ashamed. So what does Jesus do? He gives by far one of the greatest pieces of advice, one of the greatest teachings. Let's go to the next slide. He says, listen, whichever one of you wants to be first, you must be the last. You must serve everyone. You must put yourself last. Give everything up. You must serve other people. Then to take it further, Jesus, there must have been children around, because he asked one of the children to come over, and he put the children right in the center of it. Let's go to our next slide. He says, listen, whoever welcomes one of these kids in my name welcomes me. And that has a deep meaning to it, because back then, children had no real big value. What I'm saying is that it's not that the parents didn't love them, but children, especially back then, they had no way to help you gain wealth or fame or help you do anything. Spending time or money with them wasn't going to help you along. But Jesus was saying, by welcoming someone who has no power to help you, there's no influence whatsoever, you help this person. You put them above you, now you're on the right track. See, the disciples desired to have more power, more fame and prestige. They missed the entire point of why they were called to be a disciple, what the very definition of being a disciple means. It means to be a servant. And what's funny is there's no penalty for asking questions. There wasn't going to be any. That's why we have the Bible to study. And you think about it. This is one of the Bible verses that you know that shows me that the Bible is real. It's accurate. It's true. If you were going to write a Bible story to help advance your cause, you'd write stuff that was important. That, wow, that's great. Look at that they did. This is one of those Bible verses you know happened because why would you put it in there if it didn't? It makes the disciples look a little foolish, egotistical. They totally miss the point that they're human. So to put it in there means, yeah, they're just like us. This actually happened. And being a disciple has nothing to do with memorizing Bible verses. What counts is serving others, is putting other people ahead of you. That's what makes us Christian. Now take Jesus, for example. Just on the surface, he had phenomenal power, did he not? There was all this stuff he could do. He could raise the dead, literally move mountains, do any miracle he wanted. He could have international fame. But Jesus says, I didn't come for anybody to serve me. I came to serve you. When you think about it, serving others, some people are like, well, doesn't that make us seem weak? Shouldn't we come across as strong, powerful, rich? That seems like a great advertisement. But the main problem with that type of thinking is that all makes it about us. And that's what created this fallen world. When we have a desire for fame, to have more for ourselves, just think of ourselves, that's the problem. And if you think about it, that's what the devil used in the very beginning to get Adam and Eve to eat the apple. He played into their desire for greatness, to have more, to be better. But in order for us to once again come into God's kingdom, to be saved, someone had to pay that debt for us. Someone had to put themselves last. And Jesus did that. He gave up everything. He gave up his own life. And in order for the disciples to know and understand that, they had to do the same. And this message was written by disciples who struggled with that. But initially, at the end, they got it right. Most of the disciples paid dearly with their lives. So this message could be written down. So we are called as Christians to put ourselves last, to serve others. That's the message of hope and salvation. And that's what the cross is all about. Amen.
Amen.